Hello everyone! It's safe to say that logo animation is one of the most challenging and profitable fields of motion graphics. Since each logo has its own distinct style and sense, applying a single animation to all of them would be unjust. That's why in this video I've chosen to focus on a single animation that can be applied to a diverse range of logos. So once you learn how to create such animation, you can at least animate similar logos. And if you like more of these videos, don't forget to like, subscribe and share it with your friends so we can all learn together. Okay, let's get right into it. The only thing we need in this animation is how to create a bouncing ball animation, which is considered an essential skill for an animator. And if you're not familiar with this skill, I recommend you to watch the Motion Hero Massive class, in which I've talked about a variety of bouncing ball animations in it. Okay, first thing first, to make the location of the letters visible, I duplicate the layers and then put them in a new comp as a reference. Then I move it below the layers and set its opacity to 10. And then I start animating the layers. The first layer that I want to animate is the letter O. I want the letter O to move from below up to the top and then fall and land right here. As you can see, the layer launches up, and right here, as it's hitting the ground, other letters burst out of it. And the layer itself has bouncing animation as well. I go to the beginning, I open its position, I create a keyframe for it, I move it down, I enable title action save so I can align it exactly in the middle of the comp. I go 10 frames forward and I move the layer right here. Since its distance to here is less than the previous one, I move 8 frames forward and I move the layer right here. And then I curve the animation path. After that, I select this keyframe and make it easy ease. And I should increase its influence. For that, I select this keyframe and go to the graph editor. I select this keyframe and double click on it. I check the continuous option and I set its influence to 80. I also set the influence of the outgoing velocity to 80. As you can see, once that's done, as the layer approaches this point, it slows down a bit and pauses. Take a look. I increased the influence so that once the layer is up there, it would slow down, not stop completely. And to remove that short pause, I have to increase the speed of this keyframe. I select the keyframe, I hold Shift and I move the keyframe up a little bit. So the speed of the keyframe increases here, and that pause wouldn't be there anymore. Let's see how it is. I lower it down to decrease the speed. Now it looks much better. And to do it manually, you can double click on the keyframe. And here you can set its speed to 150 and 150. Well, it's good. I back to the keyframes. Now I want to create a bouncy animation for it. I move 5 frames forwards and move up the layer. Again, 4 frames ahead, the layer comes back to its original position. Again, 4 frames ahead, it moves up. And again, 4 frames forward, it comes back to its original position. I select the keyframes in which the layer is up and then easy ease them. And I have to increase the influence of this keyframe. For that, I can also use the Motion Tools script, and I set its influence to 70. I think it's looking way better now. After that, I open the layer and select the middle ellipse. I open the ellipse path and create a keyframe for its size. When the layer is up, I move the first keyframe here. I set it to 0 and make it easy ease. And here I set it to 30 and I make the keyframe linear. Let's have another look. Well, after animating the O letter, let's work on the letter B. I open its position and rotation. I create a keyframe for it. When the layer hits here, from this point on, the letter B should start appearing. I create a keyframe for its rotation here. I move 7 frames forward. I place the layer about here. Again 7 frames ahead, the layer comes back to its initial position, and I curve the path. I set its influence to 75. And I have to increase its speed because the layer pauses here, which it shouldn't, whereas it should only slow down here, not pause. To fix that, I select this keyframe and open keyframe velocity. I enable the continuous option and set the speed to 70, and then let's see how it looks. It's good. After that, I rotate the layer by 180 degrees. And then I trim the layer here. Let me hide the other layers and see how the animation looks so far. What's next? I want to make a bouncy effect for both position and rotation of this layer. For that, I don't need to do it manually. I can use the bounce expression. I copy the bounce expression and paste it for the position of this layer. Amplitude is 0.1, frequency is 1, and decay is 1.5. Let's see how the animation of the position is. I copy the same expression and paste it for the rotation as well. And for the animation of rotation and position to happen at different times and not simultaneously, I move the last keyframe of rotation 2 frames ahead. Let's check it out. It looks so much better. After doing that, it's time to animate the letter U. I open its position and rotation. I hit U. I want to animate it just like the letter B. These keyframes should be in the end. In the beginning, the layer is placed here, and 7 frames ahead, it goes here, and I curve the animation path. I also create a keyframe for its rotation in the beginning. And to copy and paste the speed and influence of this keyframe for this one, I select this keyframe and go to the Angelo. In the Animation tab, I click on this option so the properties of this keyframe would be copied. And then I select this keyframe and click on this option. And now if I open the keyframe velocity, as you can see, the speed and influence of this keyframe is identical to the other one. Let's check it out. It looks good. I just have to increase its speed a little bit. I enable continuous and I set it to 70. I animate its rotation too and set it to -180. And I trim the layer here. Let's check it out. Now I want to create a jumping animation for it. I go 5 frames forward and I move the layer up a little. Again 5 frames ahead and again I move it back to where it was. And I set the influence of this keyframe to 60. And I copy the expression of the rotation of the letter B and paste it for the rotation of the letter U. Let's give it a look. Okay, after I'm done with the letter U, it's time to work on the letter N. I make it visible. I come here, I open its position and rotation. I create a keyframe for it. I move 10 frames forward. I move the layer up here. These keyframes should be at the end. In the beginning, the layer should be here. And then here, 9 frames ahead, I want the letter N and U to collide. For that, I place it here. And this one here. 7 frames ahead, I place the layer here above. Again, 7 frames forward, I place it where it initially was. And I curve the path of the animation. To change just one handle, I hold Alt and drag it a bit. I select the middle keyframe. I open the keyframe velocity and enable continuous, and set its influence to 75 and its speed to 100. I do the same for this keyframe as well. I slow this one down a bit, 70. Let's check out the animation, and the layer should rotate thus far. I set the initial rotation to 0, and let's check how it is. Well, it looks good to me. I lowered this down so it would hit the letter U. After it landed here, let's animate the next letter, which is Y. I'll work on the letter C later, because it should hit the letter Y before landing. That's why I'll animate the letter Y at first. I open its position and rotation. I create a keyframe for it here and another one for the end as well. In the beginning, I place the layer here. I go 13 frames forward. I want it to be longer than the jump of the letter N. I trim the layer in here so it won't be visible in the beginning. I put it here. I curve its animation path. 10 frames ahead and the letter comes back to its initial position. I just have to move it up a little bit because I want the letter C to hit the letter Y and the letter Y would place where it was. I open the keyframe velocity. I enable continuous. I set this to 75. And I set its speed to 100. Let's check it out. As you can see, its speed isn't that much and it pauses here for a moment. I have to increase the speed of this keyframe. I set it to 150. Again, it pauses a bit here, so I set it to 200. It looks great. I come here and rotate the layer like this, minus 180. Let's check it out. After that, I copy the bounce expression for the letter B and paste it for the position of the letter Y. And let's see how it is. It seems like the amplitude is too much, so I change it to 0.5. Let's see. It's so much better. I copy the same expression and paste it for its rotation as well. And I change the animation of the rotation just like what I did for the letter B, so it will look more dynamic. Okay, now it's time for the letter C. I make the letter C visible. Let me trim the letter Y so it won't be visible at first, as well as this one. Let's get back to the animation the letter C. I open its position and rotation. I create a keyframe for them. I move them here for now. In the beginning, it should be here. I also create a keyframe for its rotation. I come here. I think here is good. I move the layer here. I think this layer should be lowered a bit. The letter C should be separated from N. The letter Y should also be on this side. And then 10 frames ahead, the letter C collides with the letter N. And 7 frames ahead, the letter C goes up again. About here. And again 7 frames ahead, the letter C hits the letter Y. I think this should be here. And this one here. Again 6 frames ahead, the layers goes up. 6 frames ahead, the layer hits the letter N. And again 5 frames forward, the layer goes up. 5 frames forward, the layer goes to where it was. Again 4 frames ahead, I move the layer up and I create the last bounce for it. And in the end, I place it where it was. And then I curve the animation path. I select the keyframes in which the letter C is above and I make them easy ease. Here the influence should be about 80 and its speed 150 for now. Let's see how it is. And this one I set its influence to 75 and its speed to 70. And let's see how it is. Its speed is low here, that's why we have a short pause here. So I set its speed to 150 and see if it gets better or not. Again it pauses a bit here. I increase its speed. I set it to 200. It's much better now. I select these keyframes and set their influence to 50 and their speed to 75. And let's check it out. Right here the speed should be more, so there won't be any pauses. It looks good. And here I set the speed to 170. I move this up a little bit, right here. Its speed is too much here, so I reduce it to 100. It looks so much better. I think I should increase the distance between the keyframes a bit more so it would look better. I think it's better now. Now let's back to the letter N and continue its animation so it would collide with the letter C. 6 frames ahead, I move up the letter N and to this side. Again 6 frames ahead, it should be placed here. I curve the animation path here. 6 frames forward, the layer should be right here. However, right here, they both collide with each other. That's why I create a keyframe here. I go to the final keyframe and I put it back where it was. And I make these 2 keyframes easy. And here I move up the letter C. Let's see how the animation is. I just have to make the animation of the letter N faster when it snaps back into place. And here its animation should keep going, so I add a null object. I place it here in the corner of the letter N, and I parent the letter M to it. And I create a keyframe for its rotation. 5 frames ahead, I rotated a bit and set it to -6. 5 frames ahead, and I set it to 0. And I make the middle keyframes easy. Let's check it out. I think it should be a bit more, about 70. And I move these back a bit. It's better now. I set the distance between keyframes to 7 frames. Now let's give it a look. Maybe this one a little bit less. It's better. And the last point, when the letter C hits the letter Y, which is here, I create a keyframe for the position of the letter Y. And to put the letter back to where it was, I move to where the bouncing effect is done and I put it into place. And then I move this keyframe 2 frames after the last keyframe so that when the letter C hits the letter Y would be affected. Let's see the whole animation. I have to trim the layer C as well. Let's rotate the letter N when it comes here and hits the letter C. And in the end, it goes back to 0. Let's check it out. A little bit more and then let's check it out again. I think it looks much better now. Let me limit the work area and then let's take a look at it again. Let me hide the reference comp as well. Well, it's great. So far, the input animation of the logo animation has been done. In the next video, I'll be talking about how to create the speed lines as well as the sparkles where the letters hit each other. And also the output animation of the logo, because an advanced logo animation must have an output animation as well if it's not a loop. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others so we can all learn together. And be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on my next video, which is chock full of tips and tricks. Thanks for watching.